All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday night here with one Eric Lindquist. Team Eric back, reunified in the mix. It's been a hot minute, Mr. Lindquist. What's been going on?
Oh, just missing you all the time. EMac 2024, it's a better option than anything else. Let's get ourselves rocking, winning some money here. I'm pretty much, I'm just kind of reserved as a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, Minnesota Twins too. But I'm just trying to, feel something, feel a little alive here at the moment. It's been a bleak couple of games here. Lose a combined 2 games by 4 points. Should be competitive, should be fun. Hopefully Anthony Edwards can start knocking down shots. That would make me very, very happy. I am on some alternate numbers for him there, 30 plus, and then the 35 plus with 4 threes. Threw that together a little bit better than plus 540 over on FanDuel. So I wanted to throw those out from the get-go for people who want to maybe get some bets in while we're building some DFS.
Absolutely, and that is the key. I will be DFSing here because I didn't realize I was on the show. So last night I had a little mad scramble there. Had a couple good calls on the show though. I figured that McConnell was going to come off the bench, and then of course the Nemhard dramatic doubling of his assist rate when Halliburton is off the court is always good. So hopefully you guys got in on that. If you want to get in on a little team free money, I've got the $1 head-to-heads in the DraftKings lobby for both for Classic and for the Showdown. I will be traveling the next few days, so after this, you guys won't get a crack at me until probably the finals. But I've been just giving away 80 cents at a time, Eric. It's been interesting. I want to also mention that Better is our sponsor today. So key things you need to know. One, you need to use our promo code now. That is Stochastic and the number 1. So Stochastic 1, and that will get you up to a $500 deposit match on Better. That's all you need to know. There is no better offer out there other than the Better offer. All right, what do we have here in game 3? You mentioning a little bit of Anthony Edwards needing to pick up the pace. Do you think it's a minutes thing? 13 games, just over 40 minutes per game. He's played 8 games in the last 14 days, something like that. It's been a heavy workload here. Second season in a row, he's played 79 games during the regular season. Do you think it's catching up to him? Was it just bad luck? What is your breakdown there as a boots on the ground sort of Minnesota fella?
Yeah, I think it's hard to overlook the fact that they played 4 games in Denver in the last series, had to play them a boatload of minutes. And you look at a team like Boston, they played 5-game series. In the first 2, they look fresh and ready to rock. Taking advantage of Indy there, went on an absolute massive run there at the end of that game. Indy had no business losing that yesterday, but it's still a 22-year-old that is maturing, still figuring out maybe how to take care of his body in the postseason throughout an entire season. And then you get to this postseason where you do ramp up those minutes and it probably hits and feels a little bit different. It is hard for me to know what that is like in any way, shape, or form, or any of us to know what that's like. But there's no doubt that in the data, you just look at some of his shooting. It's been really, really poor here this series. I'm going to say buy low from a betting perspective, but from a DFS perspective, it's not like we're getting some discount going to his direction. I mean, still going to be in 40% of the lineups in the utility, 19% captain ownership right now, second highest owned captain behind Luka. I think there's still a pretty large disparity between getting to Luka and getting to Ant. We're talking about a 13 DraftKings points difference. I think there's enough ways where, Minnesota's going to do everything they can to win this game. And Naz Reid, we're starting to see those minutes tick up. It's feeling good. If we can get him to be somebody who rocks out at 5,600, there's ways of getting to some lineups where Luka is still going to be my highest owned captain.
All right, well, let's talk about Naz Reid here for a second, since he had a phenomenal game too. 7 of 9, 77.8% from 3-point range. In this series, he's 13 of 22. That's 59%. In the prior series, 7 games against Denver, he was just 9 of 28. That's 32.1%. So is this the start of a trend? Obviously, he'll back off a little bit from that torrid pace, but are you looking at him over someone like Derek Lively now?
No, I'm going to play a lot of Lively. I'm firmly in the Lively camp. He's got the best net rating. At least he did before the game 3. Again, I was working through a lot of my spreadsheet stuff on the Minnesota side and jumped over to the Dallas side, and the first thing that popped out to me is just how damn good Derek Lively's been on the floor this entire season. You go to NBA.com, you look at his offensive rating, defensive rating, overall net rating, highest on the team amongst anybody on the Mavericks. Just absolute insane production from him. We're seeing the rim running between him and Daniel Gafford. They're doing some line shifts, basically just like quick hockey, now you go, now you go. And it's really fascinating to look at on Popcorn Machine and like really look at how crazy it's been on that side. But with Naz Reid, I still just like getting to him as well. I mean, he led the Minnesota Timberwolves in scoring in game 2. That's not what you want probably for a guy who played a grand total of 32 minutes there in that spot. He shot the ball so well, 7 for 9 from 3. It's hard to project him for 30. I'm not going to. I don't think anybody is, but 25 definitely going to be realistic and a pretty solid projection here. That's what we've got for him today. I think there's a lot of ways where, Kyle Anderson could maybe see an influx of minutes, but I definitely trust the Naz Reid minutes here to be something that stays. Karl Anthony Towns, he's got to knock down shots too, 4 for 16. They just opted Naz Reid, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. We saw it at the end of that game 7, where if Gobert didn't foul out, you were going to see extra minutes for Naz Reid there without Cat. And then, Cat ends up coming out on the floor to close out that game 7, which made it look a little bit different. But I am very high on Lively and Naz Reid, have an eternal amount of both in lineups.
All right. Yeah, that was sort of my Lively Gafford thing is each one has about a 20-minute baseline, and then the other 8 minutes is up for grabs, but it keeps leaning more and more towards Lively.
And it should. It should.
Foul trouble. That's the thing we haven't seen yet. So that is, I think, the only thing that could really slide it back into Gafford's favor.
But is it Gafford like the more likely between the two to actually have foul trouble?
Yes. Yes. So I can't find better way. So I guess Lively really only becomes a slightly better play. I mean, he could get 32 minutes if Gafford were to get early foul trouble, depending on what the coaches determine there. But that was one I was just trying to split. I have zero issue playing them on the same team. You're just kind of losing out if something happens to one of them. You're sort of hamstrung there, right? It's a neutral play as opposed to if you had them on separate rosters. But I came close to creating a rule for that. I decided ultimately not to, because I think they've both just been that good. And them getting to the rim on alley-oops for
it's a joke.
And
he has over 100% true shooting. I've never seen that over the course of the series. What?
Guess that's mathematically possible, but I have never, wow.
I've never seen anything like it in my sheet. I've never seen anything like it.
That is something else. That is something else.
Let me find Derek Lively true shooting here. I'll do the input here quick. But anyway, continue on while I'm looking this up.
Yeah. So I was going to say, taking it from the top here, you mentioned you'd like to be over on Luka. Am I did I catch that correctly? You said he'd be
yes.
as your captain?
Yes, I do. Luka at home in a game 3 up 2-0. It is very difficult. If you're building one lineup and you want to get away from Luka, by all means, he's probably going to end up more popular than 27% of the captain, probably going to end up more popular than the 46% we have projected. What we're seeing like this, it's not artificial ownership. It's just public money coming in and people are going to really play Luka. But the problem is that like, it's so hard for me to get away from playing it because of Lively's existence. Now, Lively's popular too. They're going to be very, very correlated in lineups where obviously you get to Luka and you're putting him in the captain. You need to find some cheapies. Lively, Gafford's popular still. Kyle Anderson, who, I brought up there, he's 2,800. He's pulling 36% ownership. I'm finding some, just like the last time, I hated getting to PJ Washington, but I think he's probably another difference maker. And going from 8K to 7,600, we're seeing that ownership go from the 15% to the 20%. But people were just jamming PJ Washington last series like it was nothing. Obviously, this is a Minnesota Timberwolves team more equipped to handle a PJ Washington. I do not like the fact that I'm going to be boosting him, but I'm going to get to more PJ Washington as a result and trying to cut down on some of this ownership that I have in my 40 lineups.
So PJ Washington, interesting because of the change in series. So my read on this is he'll get right around double-digit field goal attempts. he's getting a lot of minutes. He's had 2 blocks in each of the last 2 games, so that's really helped his fantasy production. I think he had 10 points and 13 points, if I remember correctly. And he got
he had 18, 23, 19 field goal attempts in games 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the OKC series. And then OKC did try to make some adjustments there. You know, he had 9 shot attempts there. Pretty easy victory there. 2 for 6 there. Basically, teams weren't respecting him from 3. And then he started making them. And Oklahoma City's like, shit, we better start guarding him. He went 7 for 11, 5 for 12, 5 for 11 from 3. What we're seeing is that quote unquote hot shooting. I don't like thinking of it that way, but we're seeing some of that burst that he had there. It's regressing towards the mean against a Timberwolves team that has a little bit more size and isn't just letting him sit in the corners and chuck threes ad nauseum. 0 for 4 from 3 last time out, 2 for 8 in the game previous to it. So just fewer wide open looks, if you will. The way that Oklahoma City was just kind of like, all right, we'll let anybody else beat us that isn't Luka or Kyrie, because they have Lou Dort playing really good defense. They had Jalen Williams, but like PJ Washington is a dude when left alone, apparently. So that's fun to know.
Hello, playback. Here I am. Just wanted to say hi.
What'd you do?
I was not on playback, so I was muted.
There's that.
I was muted. I was all bragging how I ran StreamYard flawlessly this morning, and here I am. All right.
Well, we got what, 18 minutes?
18 minutes. So I think the biggest difference in Washington is we're seeing a lot more Kyrie Irving offense, less of a facilitator.
Correct.
So that's the big change in this particular series here. So that was where we like Kyrie a little more tepid now on Washington. Washington's still getting a ton of minutes here. You've got Derek Jones Jr. rounding out the top 5 or the starting 5 here. He's mostly defensive presence. He'll take a few shots, but that's not his real value to the team. I would be shocked if he got more than 8 shots. 5 or 6 is probably most likely. The bench is where it gets tricky beyond Lively. So you've got Josh Green, Tim Hardaway, and Jaden Hardy. They're all going to play. 8 to 10 minutes is probably a baseline. Josh Green got 21 minutes in the last game after 13 in the series opener. I would think he has the best path forward to getting minutes, potentially coming in for Washington or coming in for Jones. Hardy's really only going to be backing up at the guard spots, and I don't really think they're going to play him more than 8 to 10 minutes. Hardaway, unless he's just raining down threes, I don't see him getting more than 10 to 12 minutes because he's just a defensive zero out there at this point. So it kind of, signs are pointing to Josh Green here. I say that hesitantly. Is he someone you'd be interested in?
He was a plus 15 last time out. I don't completely hate it. I mean, he played 21 minutes. You got to play. I'm trying to just find paths of being different on this slate because a lot of what I like is Luka and Lively and stuff that everybody else likes. I'm going to be lower on Daniel Gafford yet again, even though I think he's going to be fine from a fantasy point per minute perspective. He's going to start. He's going to keep doing the things that he's been doing and probably play 18, 20 minutes no matter what. But as much Lively as I have, I mean, he's just been the better player between the two. $400 difference isn't enough to get me away from playing more of him. But again, these are chalky options. And so Josh Green sitting around 30% there for him. I'd be a little surprised to see him come in at that kind of a number. Maybe I'm wrong, but Josh Green gonna be another correlated piece with these Luka Doncic lineups, but it's so hard not to like it. It's just a guy that's gonna play those 20-ish minutes. Tim Hardaway Jr. banished to the afterlife already here. 5 minutes last time out. He's just not been very good. He hasn't been good all year, so that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Dante Exum, the shine's worn off of him as well. 3 minutes though we saw from him last time out. That injury mid-season was kind of a bummer for him because he was going to be a rotation piece for them, but they've opted to go more minutes for Hardy, and Hardy can do stuff offensively. If he's knocking down some threes, there's paths to him getting more minutes where I don't really see that being the case because of Tim Hardaway Jr. being such a zero defensively, and Dante Exum he's just never been all that good. Let's be serious.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if Maximilian Kleber was still lurking prior to that shoulder injury.
Well, I was going to say, is he going to come back for the NBA Finals if they get there? Obviously, they're the favorites to do so here at this point in time, but I thought there was a chance he was coming back later in this series. Let me double check what I had from that.
Yeah, that one I'm not aware of, but while you're looking that up, I want to take a quick second to remind everybody we are sponsored by Better today. Promo code Stochastic and the number 1. So Stochastic 1 gets you up to a $500 deposit match on your first deposit. No links anymore. Go through that with that promo code. Key thing to know, if you're going in on some other promo code or elsewhere, you're only going to get a $250 deposit match. I'd rather have a $500 deposit match, and it helps us out. So please give some consideration there to us over on Better. B-E-T-R. Better. It's a prop pick'em site. Where's my exposure caps not coming? Okay. No. Do you think Halliburton plays tomorrow?
No. I don't think that Indy is thinking about anything about winning that series at this point in time. They got to be thinking long term. You can't. Yeah, don't throw Halliburton back out there when you're a minus infinity dog in this series. I know you want to play it to the end, but like if he's compromised, you're going to feel even stupider that you rolled him out as 8-point home dogs in a spot that was already difficult, was going to be uphill the entire way. And you need a healthy Halliburton next year or everything is lost. So very, very silly to probably roll him out tomorrow.
So bringing that back around to this game, I bring that up only because how banged up do you think Luka is at this point? I mean, we see him hobbling around. He's already in slow motion, but does he get an uplift from the home crowd here? I mean, only getting 48 hours between games is kind of rough at this point for someone. His face, his elbow, his knee, his ankle, some other lower leg issue. Just it's been a disaster for him.
I mean,
he's still
it's been better than it's been for Ant. I mean, Ant with his glove on, and I don't know if Ant's hurt or what's going on there. It's hard to really do anything with that. Luka is, for all intents and purposes, just fine. 32 points, 13 assists, 10 rebounds, 5 for 11 from 3, 7 for 7 from the line in game 2. That was a pretty signature Luka performance. He looked pretty damn good to me, unfortunately. So is what that is. I guess for me, it's just a question of like the push and pull between how much Kyrie you want to be getting to, because he's pulling 10% captain ownership right now. Cat we just saw get relegated and play 26 minutes. There's a part of me that really thinks Cat comes in lower owned, especially like in the captain spot. If Cat makes shots, he's going to get run over Naz Reid. But Naz Reid, it was also kind of special circumstances. The guy was 7 for 9 from 3. You can't rip Naz off the floor there with how well he's been and improved defensively there in the last 2 series, basically. So Karl Anthony Towns is the one guy that it's like, if we get to the flip in 12 minutes and he is sub 5% in the captain or 6%, I wouldn't be all that shocked. And I think that we're going to see more on the Luka Kyrie side of things, and he'll already have built-in ownership, even regardless of, he's been terrible for 2 games of this series. But it's still Ant. I don't think anybody should be shying away from getting to him there necessarily, but I'm just curious what you're doing with Cat specifically and Kyrie in captain.
I would like to be above the field a little bit on them. The main reason is the payoff it could be there. And this is similar to what we were saying last night. Like I was having trouble getting in O'Shea Brissett and Shepherd into the Sims did not want me to play them, and the Sims were right. But my thought was, hey, if I can get to a little bit of these guys above the field, like 10% each, and there's someone that 1 in 5, 1 in 7 chance they get 20 fantasy points, all of a sudden that unlocks a different combination, right? That's similar to looking at these 2 guys in the multiplier slot on DraftKings, where you have to pay that 50% salary tax, which I think makes the game a lot more intriguing there on DraftKings. But it helps you, just having done all the primetime NFL games, it's a good practice for coming into these games here, just to understand that if the field is 17 and you're 22, that's actually a really big jump, right? Over where they are, especially in basketball, where everything's so darn chalky and projectable and all of that. We're looking for that chaos and grabbing one of the really good players in the multiplier slot. I mean, there's nothing that says Kyrie can't go for 50 fantasy points tonight. There's nothing that says Cat isn't going to go for 40, 45. He hasn't recently, but doesn't mean he can't. in this one, right? We have a long track record of him. What do you think about Rudy Gobert? He's kind of flirting with the double-double most games, making the most of his shots. Block shots are almost non-existent in this one. He could rip off 3 block shots. It's more of a FanDuel play where they're worth 3 points each, but he's only had 1 or 2 most of the games this season. I know defense is a little different. He's had 48 hours to think about a little bit of a defensive. Was that really a defensive lapse in the last game? Not really.
Not really. He had a guy knock a shot down in his face. It happens. So it's going to happen to a lot of people. It has happened to a lot of people with Luka. And I see people in the chat saying that, oh, you can't play him in this series. Can't do. He was the only Minnesota starter with a positive plus-minus in game 2. So take that for what you will. He was a +1. No other starter. It was Nickeil Alexander-Walker at a +7. Nasri was actually a 0, which is wild because all that was him just knocking down shots ad nauseum, it felt like, trying to be the hero that we deserved. But I have no problem with Rudy Gobert here at this ownership. He played 38 minutes, played over Towns, so going towards that close. So for me, I really have no problem getting to Rudy Gobert. You have 2 true centers in Lively and Gafford, like as true of centers, just splitting 48 minutes here. We haven't seen a desire for Jason Kidd to go small. They don't really have that option with Maxi Kleber on the shelf, so it is hard for me to imagine any scenario where Rudy Gobert is like a bad play at this kind of ownership. Let me just see here. Karl Anthony Towns didn't play from the 8:40 mark on the rest of the way in that fourth quarter. Rudy Gobert did. So it's so hard to know where this ownership is going to land. I mean, we have the projections. They look great. They look in line with what I would think for a standard game here, but like 34 minutes is very different from 26 minutes for Karl Anthony Towns. And there's a part of me that just thinks we're going to get to the flip and the $20 or the $4 main event over on DK. We're going to see some really low ownership on Cat potentially. And Gobert, I think, is straight up, if you're playing one lineup, the better option if you're just looking to get to one guy. I think he's quote unquote safer based on what we've seen now. But he's had the best plus minus in the entire playoffs. Like Rudy Gobert is not a bad basketball player. I mean, that's just silly.
Do you think going over 20% on Towns is too much?
In the captain?
A captain.
There's a part of me who wants to do it here. I'm trying to decide in the last 7 minutes if I have the gumption, the nutsack to make such a play. I would be very pissed if we saw like 8-10% captain ownership on Towns. I would be ecstatic if we saw like 4 or 5%. So it's like, it's hard to know. I'm just trusting the data here. I'm letting the Sims tool do its work here in the last couple of minutes here. I'm just going to roll with my top 20 in the $4 and, play a couple in the $20. And then, I'll have other tournaments that I've got for some of these like other lineups. So I'm just going to take my top 20 here based off of the inputs. And I tried to run 2 different game scripts. That's kind of something that I've been toying with a little bit in the Sims tool. We have everything so customizable now where you can take the minutes and you can change them for the specific script that you're thinking of. Or, hey, you think somebody's going to get hot? Go ahead and change the fantasy, the minutes for them, and then their projected fantasy points will change along with it and see where they land in that game script. So it has gotten exponentially better. The Sims tool has here for Showdown. We're seeing guys like Sean Geezy. We're seeing Tom, our CEO. We're seeing a lot of major banks. I would like to join them here today.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Let's do that, EMac.
I'd like to save mine if I can be picky dealer one time. I'd like to save mine for that $1 million contest in the finals.
I got a lot of tickets for that now. There's all these tickets. If you guys aren't playing those, by the way, it's just overlaying in everything. MLB, NBA. I'm sure PGA. There's probably going to be some overlay for it even this week. Like, get in those nickel, dime, whatever you have access to. Just play all of it because they're overlaying like crazy.
I have 146 tickets.
Oh, that's more than me. I have like 52. So you are really letting it rip. Let's go, EMac.
Let's go. I'm gonna need a little special coaching session from you and Steve Buzzard and Greg and everybody to figure out.
Just listen to Greg and Steve Buzzard. Yeah, I as much as I like myself, they have. Steve Buzzard's just been doing this forever and just absolute goat. Him and Tom. I'm sure they'll give you some wise words, EMac.
Yes, we will say. Haven't chatted with those fellows in quite some time, so perhaps I will be reaching out here before the finals just to say hello. We are 5 minutes away, 4 minutes actually, in 25 seconds. It looks like I wanted to go back over here real quick.
I have 100% Luka in my stuff between captain and flex. I've got 40% of him in the captain. I just don't see a way around it. Too many raw points. I know we've had the Tatum slates. We've had other stuff that has randomly popped up, but there's just no way that I'm not playing a ton of him today.
I am coming in lower. I have 39. Where is he? 39% in the flex, and I have with Luka. I have. Oh, I've screwed something up. I guess I have 100 in the captain. I mucked my things up here. No, I have 39 in the captain. There we go. Okay, I'm learning to read all of these different. We have so many dashboards now. It's very, very helpful, and the filters have been great. Shout out to the dev team for doing that. It throws off my adult little mind here, looking at these things. But okay, so I am above Towns, I'm above on Irving, and I'm above on Luka for captain. That's what I wanted. So I have him at 90%. It's not 100, but it's at 90.
Okay.
So I was worried it was at 60, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want that to happen. It is not, thankfully. Yeah. So I'm gonna just upload these right.
Yep. Karl-Anthony Towns, Sims likes him for captain. I'm rolling with it here in a number of these lineups. It's going to be a lot of Luka, a lot of Cat, and then my it's not even that contrarian anymore. I mean, Naz Reid captain, is that going to be contrarian? I don't think so. Not anymore.
Do people really chase points at this stage of DFS?
Yes, because there's more public money playing on a one-game slate here going forward, which is why DK went to this model to begin with, which, again, ended up being genius for them and really, really good call.
All right, I'm going to upload my stuff. There's still some team free money lineups I can see in there. Oh,
all right.
Figure out my mouse here, because
I'm also going
into Excel and lose your copy paste board.
I'm just taking out these massive dupe train lineups that I have.
I didn't get to that step. That was a question we had in Discord, and that's something I haven't added into my analysis here, which I should, because it is just right there on our system. What do you look for in dupes?
So when you're running the sims, you're simming up against, your pool of lineups, the contest, you're trying to recreate the field, for up to 5,000 that we have for NBA, 10,000 MLB. Like, you're going to want to do the best you possibly can to recreate that field. And then, for me, I ran 2 separate game scripts. I have like a Minnesota actually shows up and, Karl-Anthony Towns does the stuff that he's supposed to do. And I'm going to play that in a number of lineups. And then I've got one where Dallas just waxes the floor with my basketball team, which is really, really sad to say out loud. Kind of hurts my feelings. But I am very confident that, there's no perfect way to go. Like, it's hard to screw it up when you run it baseline, like with the data. It's smarter than we are. There's no doubt about it. But like, for the dupes, you're basically seeing double-digit dupes. That's a pretty easy thing for me with 5,000 lineups to know, oh, I should probably not be doing that. It has 50,000 in salary, and I'm going to put this into the $20 or the $4. No, I'm not going to do that. So for me, it's kind of like tracking the results as I go along. One slate is all it really takes to achieve your EV. And that's what we're all aiming for, like throughout these entire playoffs. We're looking for that one. Like, I'm running Karl-Anthony Towns in captain in single entry. I want to vomit right now, but I do think there's just so many paths to, I'm just make sure this got in. All right, good. There's just so many ways that you can go about building with the sims now with the customizable options that we have. So for me, it's just like tracking my results as I go along, seeing what I did well, what I did poorly, and then going to the post-contest sim. And it's the least utilized thing on our site. Go to the post-contest sim, see how you built your lineups up against the field, and you'll get the actual results for each contest if you look up your username. So that's just an amazing ad that we have here with the Sims tool. But apparently go Karl-Anthony Towns tonight. Never thought I would say that.
And here we are. We are at lock. I missed getting in the Kyle Anderson, Nickeil Alexander Walker conversation there. It feels like Anderson may have passed him just by a little bit, but that's a
Yeah.
tenuous situation.
It's going to be, they're going to throw everything at the wall. Who plays well? Like, that's the unprojectable, like, that's the difficult part of it. Like, if people are extremely confident in Kyle Anderson and then extremely not confident in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, there's a reason to maybe get to some more Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But Kyle Anderson's fit well for this series. We lost 2 games by like 2 possessions, basically 2 massive mistakes. And you just got to tip your cap to Dallas. They've played better than we have. Hopefully we can right the ship today.
Did you say get some Morris in your lineup there? I think that's what I heard you say. No, just kidding.
What?
Monty? No, you said
I did not.
more. You said more of, but I thought,
yeah, no. It's all price and probability. It's kind of like from the betting perspective where it's like, what's the chances of the person being optimal? And then can I get more or less than that number and, have it make sense? Just everything's a push and pull. And so again, that's where the Sims tool just does it for me now.
All right. And shout out to, I didn't get to the super chat, but you are the main reason I blah, 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 blah. We'll take that out in post-production. You're the main reason I went and fixed my microphone there. That is Chinadu Ndukwe. Hopefully I said that remotely close, but good, sir. Thank you. I do appreciate you giving the super chat for that shout out. So you have my marker. Good, sir. You have my marker. I believe it is to playback we go here, Eric, because the game is going to start here in just a little bit. We've got our lineups up. We're going to have some fun. So with that, you guys can follow Mr. Lindquist over on Twitter at Eric Lindquist. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is stochastic_COM. Promo code stochastic1 gets you a $500 deposit match on Better. That's BETR. You better remember that. With that, gamers, good luck.